Yeah, I think so. All right. First of all, thank you for taking the time to talk to us today.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
This is Chelsea Jennings from Metal Temple, and I am here with Chris Broderick of Act of Defiance. And the first question today would be, after you and your bandmate Sean Drover both decided to leave Megadeth, which happened rather closely together in 2014, what inspired you to start a band together, and what motivated you to make it a heavily thrash-influenced band?
You know, it was really talking with Sean, like right after we left. It was really the idea that we had written all this music for the past 2 years that we knew was never going to be used, and that wouldn't get out there in the public's eye. And we decided that we started joking around. Hey, let's get this music out. Let's just release it. And then from there, it quickly became, well, why don't we make this into a full-fledged band and not just another project that people are going to, record and then disband and go on to their next thing. So that's how Act of Defiance got started.
Okay, cool. So you wanted it to be heard, but it wouldn't be heard if you had stayed where you were.
Exactly. Well, yeah, and primarily it wouldn't have been a lot of my input.
Right.
So that was one of the biggest reasons, was just being able to get the opportunity to really write creatively and get my music out there.
Okay, so the new band is named Act of Defiance. Is the band an act of defiance against someone or something that has happened in the past?
No. We like the term. When we started coming up with band names, the first thing I did was open up an online document that both Sean and I could edit, and we just randomly, whenever it would strike us, we started throwing names up there. It wasn't even a decision process at the time. It's like, oh, I think that's cool, I'll throw it up there, and we'll look at it later. So, as we were working on demoing the material and coming up with material, we were always adding to that list, and then started to come down to the wire in terms of needing a band name. So at that point, we started looking at what we had, and one of the names that we liked best was the name Defiance, and we looked on the internet, and of course it was taken about a million different ways. So we thought about adding phrases to it, and Act of Defiance was the one that we thought was the coolest. And for me personally, it represents the rebellious nature of trying to make change for the better, whether it's political, social, or in any setting. It's the idea that sometimes there are things that are in control that honestly don't have the best intentions behind people. And so I kind of think of like fists in the air and people marching out against things they don't believe in, and that's kind of what I think of Act of Defiance as representing.
Okay, awesome. So it was just the name that fit best at the time. So.
Yes.
Okay. It has been widely discussed that Act of Defiance chose Scar the Martyr's vocalist Henry Derrick for his ability to sing both clean and screaming vocals exceptionally well. Having said that, what drove Act of Defiance to choose to work with bassist Matt Blanchard on the new record?
Well, Matt is, somebody that both Sean and I have known over the years through touring and, seeing him at the NAMM show and different places, And I've always thought Matt was an awesome guy and a great dude. And I never personally knew that he had been playing bass in any capacity. And Sean had brought it up to me once we started looking for a bass player. Hey, well, why don't we get Matt from Shadows Fall? And I'm like, he's a guitarist. And Sean's like, yeah, but he also plays bass, too. And I thought that was just a perfect fit because, he sings, he writes well, he's a guitarist as well. We can use him in that capacity, to some extent. So I just thought it was a great idea, and that's how we went with Matt.
So the versatility really lent itself to what you were looking for.
Absolutely.
Okay, Act of Defiance will be co-headlining a U.S. tour in October and November. What can fans expect from the band's first really big tour as a group, or at least one of them?
I would say that we're just going to try and live up to the aggressive nature of the CD and really bring it to the audience and make the audience a part of it, That's my goal personally. And it also, for me, it really kind of makes the live show. I love audience participation and when they're stage diving and when there's hits like that. I think that's awesome. When they're singing the words along with us, it's just like it's a good time instead of, us just performing for.
Okay, awesome. Can fans expect to possibly hear any old Megadeth songs on this tour, and if so, which ones?
Definitely not. No, that's we're trying to get away from that because we're really looking at, getting our own music out there.
Right, I had to ask. I mean, I figured not, but hey,
Right.
Okay, now that Act of Defiance have put out their first CD and officially started the process of being a band, for you as a guitarist, what are you looking for that you didn't have in the past with Megadeth?
It's really musical creative freedom, not only in the way that we write our music and the material that we come out with, but also the way that we're presented as a band. Now I have the freedom to be able to play my 7-string guitars and, the freedom to be able to present the band in a way that both Sean and I, thinks it should be presented, along with Matt and Henry, actually, because, it's really more about us just being able to be ourselves.
Right, not having someone telling you can or can't do this or that.
Exactly. Yep.
The first Act of Defiance album seems to be focused on some darker, heavier content, as is most heavy metal. What was the focus on the first album, The Birth and the Burial, in terms of themes and lyrics?
There was no focus or theme. I would just say that, it covers a variety of content. For example, if you look at a song like Dead Stare, that for me was a song that I wrote about a really good friend of mine that he was one of those guys that, whenever you're hanging out with him, he's just always in a good mood, no matter what's happening, no matter, if he's feeling like he's on his deathbed or anything, he's always in a good mood. And he got this job where he was working, tons of hours a day, always on call. And it was funny, because I was trying, hanging out with him at that time. And one day he just showed up and, he just looked broken. He had this dead stare on his face. And it was like all hope had gone finally from him. And that's really what Dead Stare is about, is the idea that, we run through times in life where we kind of, we go through those hard points where we lose all hope and we've got to work really hard to get it back.
So that kind of inspired at least that track, and the album was just inspired by then different stuff?
Yeah, because Henry, he had quite a bit of writing on this CD as well, along with Sean and myself, and so it's just really what we were all feeling at the time. So it had no particular theme and no particular direction.
Okay, so it wasn't a concept album or anything?
Not at all.
Would the band consider doing one of those in the future?
Yeah, I would, it definitely makes things harder because you have to unify the content, make it match up with the lyrics, and there's a lot of work involved in doing a concept album.
Absolutely.
So that'd be something really to consider when you take it on.
And I have to ask, with the title, The Birth and the Burial, is there any sort of reference to, say, burying one aspect of what you were doing with music and moving on to another?
No, it really is, it was a song that Henry wrote called Birth and the Burial, and we liked the title so much and the fact that it summed up the idea of, of how you are in life reflects in death, and it just, it sums it up and puts it in a contemplative way. We like that so much, we ended up using it for the CD title. Yeah,
it just was a coincidence that that's the first album you put out?
Yes.
Okay. Upon listening to Birth and the Burial, I heard a lot of classic thrash influences. The first thing I thought of was Anthrax's Fistful of Metal. Were these kinds of classic thrash albums inspiration for writing for you guys?
Absolutely. The funny thing is, for me in thrash, actually, thrash is more besides Metallica, thrash is a more recent endeavor for me, and I really got into thrash through seeing, rhythm players like Kerry King and Rob Cavastani as Death Angel, and Gary Holt, and all those great thrash players, and seeing what they really bring to the table, and so yeah, the influences definitely were there.
And that was something that inspired a lot of you guys then growing up and listening to them and possibly touring with them. And
it's been more of a, like I said, Metallica definitely was an influence on me growing up. But even more so, more recently, is the influence of those players that I just mentioned. So they were definitely an influence on how we wrote this CD.
Okay, and I just have to ask, there's probably some overly eager fans out there that are wondering if there's going to be a second record and if more material is out there that could be released.
At the moment, there is no more material that can be released. We're definitely planning on a few more CDs, but this one hasn't even come out yet. So I love the eagerness, that's for sure.
Absolutely, and a lot of people are probably wondering where the next one is before the first one comes through.
Right.
All right, so what do you envision for an Act of Defiance in, say, 10 years from now, and what would your goals for the future for the band be?
10 years from now, I have no idea where the band will be. I haven't thought that far out ahead. I haven't even thought about where I will be in 10 years from now.
Or 5 years or whatever, right?
Yeah. Well, five-year plan. We're still planning out to 5 years for sure. I think we'll be on our third or fourth release by then, and hopefully just touring as strong as ever.
So you're a band that wants to do a lot of, tours and going around the world and stuff?
Absolutely.
Because I know some bands are they do a tour a year or every 2 years, and fans never even get to see it. And it's well...
Right. For us, yeah, we want to make it as many places as we possibly can.
Absolutely. And then, having said that, is there anything else that you would like fans to know about the upcoming release and the band moving forward?
Just that we're looking at, obviously we have the upcoming tour in the U.S., and we're looking at potential dates over in Europe and the U.K., and we're really excited to get out there into all parts of the world. So.
All right, well, thank you very much for your time today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Chelsea.